Hey there, good afternoon, or I guess it's a late afternoon now here on Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So this is Sunday night. We normally do either the Great Album Challenge or Ben's Album Challenge. This week it's Ben's Album Challenge. Ben usually is he is a subscriber friend of mine who chooses an album, one of his own choosing. He gives it to me, and my job is to review the album and tell you what I think of it and pick my favorite song, which is one of the other stipulations. So today we are talking about the album by a band called England, and the album's called Garden Shed. This is a bit of an obscure album. This album I believe came out in '76 on the Arista label. David Hitchcock was the producer of the album. So I think what happened with this album is it's quite good. The instrumentation is very strong here on this album. Lots of really catchy stuff too. I think it's just that they came out a little bit past that time period when progressive rock was starting to wane, and unfortunately for them, they paid a price for that because they didn't have quite the fame that they probably would have had if they'd come out a few years earlier. So this album's about 47 minutes long, roughly speaking. I listened to the entire thing a couple times now. It was recorded originally in the Rolling Stones mobile studio. That's, I think, probably where it was put together, and that was in Maidstone, Kent, which is in England. And but it was also recorded at several other studios. Kong Studio, I believe the other two were Air and Morgan Studios, all in London, of course. So this band was the brainchild of a drummer named Martin Ebostis, I believe that was his name, but he never actually appeared on any of their albums. He was the one that kind of put the band together, and then he left the band and other musicians took over, the main one being Martin Henderson, who was the bass player vocalist. So all four members of this band do sing, according to what they said. Their harmonizing vocals are really good. I really like their harmonizing vocals a lot. The individual vocalists, depending on who's singing, some of them are quite good, others a bit on the weak side. Overall, the band's instrumentation is really good, especially I find the drummer on the rhythm section is very strong. Keyboardist is very dominant as well on this band. If I was trying to compare them to a band that people might know, well, I think they kind of fall in that Genesis, Gentle Giant kind of sound. Well, although they're not really similar, but Gentle Giant, maybe a little bit more like Gentle Giant. However, a little bit more pastoral, I think. Overall, their music's more pastoral. A lot more piano on this album than you would ever find on a Gentle Giant album. And of course, the major difference is that their stuff is very accessible fairly quickly. It's really catchy stuff. Unlike the Gentle Giant, requires a lot of listening to penetrate. This is much more catchy. I find their melodies and their choice of melodies and riffs are very, very catchy, very easy listening, but good, like very solid. I like the piano on this album quite a bit, and the keyboards are pretty dominant, and he does play an assortment of keyboards, mellotron, organ. I think there's some clavinet here. I do believe so. There might even be a harpsichord, but I can't picture where I saw it. The music is, for the most part, fairly simple in a lot of ways, but the instrumentation is not. It's quite good. You've got about, let's see, there's like 6 tracks on here. 3 or 4 of them are like less than 5 minutes, 5.5, 5 minutes and less, and then you got a couple of fairly lengthy tracks, one that's almost 13 and the other one I think is pretty close to 16 or a little bit more than 16 minutes in length. So you got 2 longer tracks and 4 shorter tracks, all really good. I enjoyed them a lot. My favorite particular track on the album is probably the one that is last on side 1, because this was in the time period when you had sides, which is the 3 pieces. It's called the 3-piece suite, or suite, I guess it'd probably be considered called suite. Most of the stuff was written by Webb. I think he's the main writer for the band. So you've got 6 tracks. I would say very progressive, lots of pastoral sound to them, but lots of heavy parts too. When I say heavy, I mean heavy for progressive rock, not heavy metal. So I'm just going to move my notes up here a little closer just in case I need them. So the first song is called Midnight, Midnight Madness actually. It's a fairly lengthy tune, almost 7 minutes, so it's the track, like you've got 3 tracks that are kind of under 5.5 minutes. There's one track that's kind of in the middle, and then a couple of long tracks. So the Midnight Madness, this is the song, this is the one that kind of reminds me a bit of the Gentle Giant vocals, the ones that I had a problem with early on. There's kind of a weakness to this particular song and its vocals. I'm not enamored with it. It just reminds me of that. The melodies are pretty complex, but also very pastoral, and the keyboards are pretty complex as well on this particular track. So overall, I like this track. It's a good track, but it took a little bit to get past the vocals for me on this. The second track's a short one. It's a classical piano, and the guy's doing a almost Freddie Mercury like vocal to it. He doesn't. It's not the bombastic Freddie Mercury. It's more that kind of find me somebody to love type vocal thing that was going on. Very, very good. It's quite good. The next track is one of the lengthy tracks, the last track on side 1. Probably my favorite track on the album. It's called 3-Piece Suite, or Suite, I guess is what it is. It's a catchy sound, lots of complex vocal harmonies here. Some nice some parts of the vocals are a little on the subdued side, not overly subdued, but a little bit on that side. I think the keyboards and the bass on this song are very strong for their different parts that they play in it. Yeah, and the drum parts are complex. The keyboard parts are very good, a little bit complex as well, and there are some strong solos on this by various instrumentation. I think the keyboard guy, he likes to try different keyboards like mellotrons and organs and stuff like that. Here I see them. So this is a fairly lengthy song. It's about 13 minutes in length, and again, it's probably my favorite song. The next side, you go to side 2. Now I'm going to mess up the title of this song, I'm sure of it. It's Paraphernalia. I think that's what it's supposed to be, paraphernalia, I think, but it just looks different. And it opens with a keyboard bit. Vocals are better on this song, one of the best on the album, because of the harmonies that they use. They're very good at harmonies. I find this band has a strong harmony section. I think this is probably overall, this side of the album is probably better than the first side. I just like that one particular track better. Catchy riffs, lots of catchy melodies here, and the keyboards are strong as well. The next track is called Yellow, and an acoustic guitar part with some organ accompanying it and some different keyboard instruments, and then some very nice piano towards the end of the song, which is well done. The guy who plays the piano, I'm pretty sure it's the keyboardist, but I'm not 100% sure. With this, when I do these videos, I don't get all the detailed information. I do that only on Look Back at a Classic Rock Album. But in this case, I find the piano very, very, very well done. The last song is a little bit grandiose in its scheme. so it's much more bombastic than a lot of the other stuff on the album. It was based on the Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, so the storyline on this song was based on that. For those of you who are familiar with Dorian Gray, he is the guy, when he did things wrong, his face in the mirror got worse and problems started to happen to him. So yeah, it's that kind of a sweep. It's got a nice drum opening with some backing kind of synthesizer noises, and then there's a bit of a heavy part in this song towards the middle. Yeah, probably one of the heavier sections in the album. Yeah, very strong rhythm section to this, but the whole album is a very strong rhythm section. That's, I think, part of the reason why it's such a catchy album. The vocals are good. There's a bit of a dual vocals going here. I find their dual vocals and their melody vocals are quite good, but some of the individual singers not so strong. And it builds up, and the instrumentation gets stronger and heavier as the song goes on. Yeah, so overall it's a strong album. I liked it quite a bit. It's an album I definitely would like to have. Whether that's going to be possible or not, hard to say, because it's a bit of an obscure album, might be hard to find, but a couple people told me yes, they